Welcome to the H12 Prep Baseball Report. I'm Ramon Scott, and I'm joined by Dave Dickens of EastCountySports.com. Dave, we spent all of last week's show talking about all the victories by the East County teams in prep baseball to start the season. I have this week's scheduled show for about 15 minutes. There weren't very many wins this week. The rest of the counties kind of caught up to our East County teams. There were some victories, and we'll talk about a couple of teams that are red hot right now. As we go along, we'll try to hit on all the teams that played this past week. But earlier tonight, we had Tyler Glowacki, the junior from the Santana Sultans, as one of the hottest teams in the league. The Sultans were unranked to start the season, Dave, but Santana has now won 5 straight ball games. Just this past week, they defeated Madison 7-1 on Monday. They defeated Cathedral Catholic 6-1 for their second win over the Dons this season. Tyler Glowacki, who we had on the show, he pitched a complete game 4-hitter in that one with 6 strikeouts. And to kick off the week, Santana defeated La Costa Canyon 4-2 as Tyler Fitzgerald drove in 3 runs, and you were at that game.
And I'll tell you, that told me right there. Everybody's talking about the Cathedral Catholic, and yes, that's a very large victory. That shows that they're the real deal. You know, I heard somebody say, though, I'm not going to quote. I don't want to get this coach into any trouble or any hot water, but they're in a lower division, and they said, you know what? I think that it's just that. Cathedral Catholic is kind of they're not the same as they typically are, and they're not as good as they typically are this season. I think that is incorrect. That is an opinion that I do not agree with, and this person will probably be calling me and talking to me later next week. But I'll tell you right now, that is incorrect information, and that this Santana team is the real deal. I saw them live, and I had the opportunity to have some wonderful angles, to be outside of the dugout, to be in the dugout, to soak up the atmosphere. I'll tell you what, and you know, something that you don't see a lot of is a head coach like Rigo Ledesma that just calm, cool, collective. I mean, he could have been down 10 runs, and this guy, all right, buddy, all right, we got it, guys. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about. I don't know how many times I heard that same phrase. Don't worry about it. We're gonna get him. And then what was my other favorite one? And if any of you got to see my footage of that game too, as my favorite one, and it was some really good strikes pitched by Dean coming in to do some
Dean Landers,
yeah, to do some great relieving. Attaboy, attaboy. I'm sure you heard it quite a few times too, and you know, it just the encouragement that this coaching staff gives these young and seasoned Santana Sultans. I don't know, Ramon. I think if we're talking Santee and we're talking league championship, maybe further down the road. And I know we always say same old cliche, it's early, but I'll tell you what, they're going to be a tough team to beat. I think they're going to give. Sorry, Cole, you have a phenomenal team. James Davis, you have an equally great team, and so do you, Jordan Abruzzo. And maybe I'm even stirring it up. You know what? The great Bill Dickens used to love to stir it up just to get you to play a little tougher against these teams. And speaking of that, while we're on the subject, the Bill Dickens officially, the Bill Dickens tournament did launch. It was
yesterday.
Yesterday, as a matter of fact. And then Matter of fact, I should have been there. I apologize to my father and to Coach Holland, but you know what? Actually was at a pretty darn good game myself out in Spring Valley with two of the top D5 pitchers, with Thomas Ringer for the Mount Miguel Matadors on the hill, and uh, for the Foothills Christian Knights, representing Dave Lewis and his group, Kip Familero. And as you and I have both seen both of these kids pitch, and I don't quite have all of the video up yet, but we've seen enough of them to know that those two are they may be D5, but they could easily play for a D4 or D3 team. I'm going to go that far, even a D3 team. They are very good pitchers. They also are very good swinging the bat. And let's not forget, and that's something that a lot of people forget. And I brought this up earlier in our other show. They have a very great IQ, baseball IQ, when it comes to reading the pitches, being on both sides of the ball, and 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 not letting it get to them. Boy, when they're down, being able to take it, being able to hand the ball over, and trust that their guy's gonna come in there and relieve them. But again, no one did it better that I saw this week than Santana. I saw a lot of action, and I'll tell you what, Santana looked really, really good.
Yeah, Dave, and I said Santana was unranked to start the season, but when the poll came out yesterday, the first release of the in-season media poll, the Sultans were sixth. And you know who they were ahead of? The Cathedral Catholic Dons, who were ranked seventh. So you mentioned, were the Dons down? Maybe not. The Dons opened up the GMC play with an 8-1 win over those Grossmont Foothillers. But back to Santana, yesterday's win in their GMC opener, they beat Madison 7-1. Blake Taylor went 5 innings, allowed 4 hits and no runs, struck out 3 for the Sultans. So the Sultans pitching is looking really good. It was the 5th straight win for Santana.
And let me tell you something. These Santana Sultans are real. And I'll tell you what, Cathedral, you better watch out for this East County Santana Sultan team, because you may end up seeing them again, and they may beat you again. And when it comes to the higher bracket, the Bill Dickens portion of the after named classic tournament, I'll tell you what, there needs to be an East County team to win it. And I'll tell you what, Santana is definitely in the running to win that one. Let's not forget any of those other Hills teams. We will get to them shortly.
Yeah, and we'll see if we have anything to write about this week and cover, because there's rain expected pretty much every day this week. It's just to be a matter of what time the rain comes, how well the fields are maintained, and we're just going to have to play it day by day, kind of like the coronavirus. So anyway, I know that's a story for another time, but let me talk about maybe some of these teams in the Hills League. You mentioned the top 10 poll. Dave,
Hold on a second.
are you trying not to breathe the air here?
Yeah, I'm trying not to get it because okay, folks, just and then I'll step off it, and I'm not trying to make a joke about it, but folks, we breathe smog every day. We breathe all kinds of nasty stuff in the air every day, folks. If it dries up, go out and watch yourself some quality baseball, especially if you got a Grossmont Conference team to go watch one, because you know what? You only live once. That's the way I look at it. And you know what? They are even talking about having cures for this stuff, and it's just a virus. You're going to get over it. Go watch some baseball. Go on.
Okay, I might just do that if it doesn't rain. But Dave, Helix is 4-2 right now. They're ranked third when the poll came out on Monday. Of course, they defeated Eastlake on Saturday 3-0. Thomas Kennedy, he pitched great, 6 innings.
Oh,
Jordan Thompson came
oh,
in, he got the save. And how about the bats for Helix? Demetrius Wells, Aiden Estrada, and David Blum, names that are kind of new to the Highlanders lineup this year as far as being impact players, but they all drove in runs. And Helix got back at Eastlake. Eastlake won the first game of the season 7-3, but when they met in that first game of the GMC tournament yesterday, Helix got the best of them. But of course, Helix did lose to that was on Saturday. Helix lost to Modern Day yesterday in the GMC 5-1. Helix will play Cathedral Catholic on Friday in the GMC.
but I'll tell you, here I think that I think that it kind of sounds familiar. the the name, and if you hear, if I've had the opportunity to see Helix twice this year, and it almost sounds like Mud talking about the Blummer, about Jeff Blum, the former utility player, great for the Padres in the what was that, the early 2000s, late 90s. Jeff Jeff Blum. They call him. They don't call him by his first name. They, come on, Blummer, Blummer. Let's go, Blummer. Come on, Blummer. Attaboy, love Blummer. And it just brought me back to Jeff Blum. If most of us remember him, maybe some of the younger kids don't, but that kid, I'll tell you what, you saw the numbers yourself. They speak for themselves, and I saw him live twice as well. And he's an up and coming younger guy that's swinging the bat real well. And really, Helix doesn't need. They don't need to be swinging for the fence, because I'll tell you what. As much as and I do miss Eric Smelko, as much as I do miss that kid, mostly for our show, because boy, he was such an eloquent speaker, and boy, he could run the show for us. We could just walk away, and he'd have the show all produced and ready to go for us. But which reminds me, we need to probably maybe get a hold of that kid and see how he's doing now that Mary's and have on the show. But that's beside the point. All I'm saying is Helix has so much pitching and defensive wise that they don't have to do a whole lot offensively. And I will say, they've been the two times I saw them play, they're wearing my favorite pinstripes too. Boy, those are something of beauty. Those pinstripe Helix uniforms. I'm sure you're even a fan of them, being an alumni yourself. And then we'll why don't we transition, since we already did your team, and let's transition over to the Eagles out there in El Cajon, and how they've been doing.
Yeah, Dave, they debuted in the in-season poll 15th. Right now, the Eagles treading water a little bit early on, but they did have some top performances this week. You know, they defeated Rancho Buena Vista 2-1 behind Clay Fordham, 11 strikeouts, and a complete game for Clay against RBV yesterday. Granite Hills lost to Point Loma 10-6.
I want to tell you something that Clay Fordham personally said to me, and this will, I think this will push you and push me to if get our stuff done a little faster, especially when it comes to the Eagles. This is somewhat what he said. Clay said, I I didn't see something up right away, and I'm not typically one to complain, and I'm not complaining, but I have been looking forward ever since my dad played to be able to look into whether it be the Californian or East County sports. I look forward to what you guys have to say about us, and my quotes getting in there, and see he still loves seeing his name in East County sports, and he said that he's just always just as proud, even this late in his career, to be a part of East County sports and for people to read about all his accomplishments. So, uh, as I promised to him, we'll do our best, which we always do, and we will get them done as quick as we possibly can. But hey, this is what I said at the beginning of the season. You know what? It's not always quantity; it's quality, and sometimes to get that quality, whether it be the video portion, the photos, or the statistics or the writing portion. You know, it takes a little bit of time, and I think we take a little bit more time, and we're just trying to make it look better, paint a better picture for you, brother. And but we always thank people like Clay Fordham that still appreciates what we do and what we write about the Granite Hills Eagles. And speaking of them, uh, let's get in, just touch on the offense real quick too.
Yeah.
Uh,
TK
the
Parker hit a home run yesterday in that loss, Dave.
he he did, and I'll tell you, he was. I figured he was going to do something similar to that, or he was either going to hit a grand slam or he was going to hit a solo, because he was not a happy camper after he lost to Cathedral Catholic when they were only down 2-1. I believe it was the sixth inning, and I showed up, and not to mention they'd hit him not once but twice. They gave him not just a brushback, but they hit him twice with the baseball. So he was not so much the being hit by the baseball, but TK likes to hit the ball, and he likes to hit it hard, and he likes to get on base, and get on base. He sure did. He cleared the bases. Um, let's not forget also Austin Smith. He
Yeah.
also had a couple himself, and that's one of the guys that came in because of TK, and he's an up and coming kid too. Remember, he started pretty young. He was a sophomore, and when he started with Davis's group, and pretty good pitcher and swinging the bat pretty well, kind of early.
Yeah, and yesterday Smith had 2 hits. He walked once, he scored twice, and he also pitched the best of all the Eagles. The Eagles kind of had a rough day on the mound, but Smith did strike out 7 in 4 innings of work against the Pointers. Dave, you mentioned the Grossmont Foothillers. They did lose twice last week. They lost to that Cathedral Catholic Club on
Oh,
Monday,
dang.
8-1. They also lost to San Ysidro by a 7-5 count. Anthony Mata had 2 RBIs on a double in that one. This week, Grossmont is scheduled to play Point Loma on Wednesday, weather permitting.
Well, personally, if you ask me, I'm not the KUSI guy myself, but I will say, if we're lucky, Ramon, I think we'll be able to play two games in the next week,
Yeah,
weather
maybe
permitting.
tomorrow might be okay. I mean, I'm just looking at the phone. I mean, that looks like rain all throughout the week right there. Wednesday looks okay, though. Maybe we'll get those in tomorrow. So,
It changes that, because I'll tell you what happened out at Mount Miguel. Uh, the clouds all of a sudden started blowing. I mean, there it was a calm before the talk about a calm before the storm. All of a sudden, you feel that wind coming, and those clouds are coming with some fierce. And I'll tell you what, I was in my car before they could finish that, but they were just about wrapped up anyway because of the lighting situation, and they were packing up by the time. But I was already out of the driveway. I mean, and they took no offense to that. I said, uh, looks like it's going to be a good storm. I think I'm going to get ahead of you guys, and but a good game. I want to reiterate that and you saw the quotes that were given, quite a few great quotes, not only by the kids but by Coach Dave Lewis and by Frank Coit. They really enjoy playing against each other and sharing the field now. It's really a great thing to see. You don't see there's no hate on the field between any of the kids. The kids encourage each other, and it was just a good battle. Um, you get your two aces on the mound, but back to Grossmont. I'll tell you, it was a little bit of a rough week for Abruzzo's club, but like he said, and we say like a broken record, it's early, and his quotes were pretty simple. And we all know when Jordan is Coach Jordan is not too happy with the club or the way they're playing, you're going to get one sentence, and that's going to pretty much sum up how his team is playing. However, he always says, "But I thank you guys for your coverage and the way that you guys look out for us, and we're there in the good and the bad." But that pretty much sums up the bigger league. But
Oh, I don't know. I've got some other. I was going to wrap up the Hills League, but don't forget. I mean, there's still the Valhalla Norsemen. They have the same record as Granite Hills at 3-3. They are scheduled to take on Cathedral Catholic on Wednesday and Point Loma on Friday. Valhalla defeated Scripps Ranch 3-2 on Monday in the GMC in walk-off fashion. It was Mario Johnson who reached on an error and scored on a pass ball in the 7th inning. The pitching was performed by Andy Boyd and Jojo Ingracia. The Norsemen went 1-1 over the last week. They lost to Eastlake 13-3 last week, and finally in the Hills League, Steel Canyon lost twice to Coronado, once in the Aztecs Foothiller and once in the GMC. Steel Canyon is going to take on Claremont and Sarah this week, weather permitting. The Cougars are off to a 1-4-1 start. Those are the Hills League teams, Dave.
And he'll know why, and he won't take it personally. And God love him. I love Mike Spears, but Mike, right now the Cougars. Here it is. 1.2 or is it 1.1 runs per game?
Not hitting. Huh?
We need to do something about that. Jesse, Coach, I'm not I'm not teasing you about that. I'm because I do work with alongside Mike. It's mostly at him. I do want to say though, the kids are playing their tails off. Speedy group, Ramon, very fast. Cross country kids, very fast on the base paths. But I mean, it is what it is. If you can't hit the ball, it doesn't matter. You can, you can play small ball, but you can only bunt so much. You got to get you got to get that ball to drop somewhere, and you got to get it out of the infield if you're going to win some ball games. Them being in the hills, if anything, it's definitely going to school the Cougars, and make them a better team. That's the only thing I could say on that. One win, and then as you mentioned, the tie against Madison.
Yeah, they're averaging just 2 runs a game over those first 6 games, Dave. You're right. They are running. Valhalla and Steel Canyon do quite a bit of running, and that'll help them. And maybe if the Cougars can get those big hits, they can score more runs. So far, Jonathan Ramirez, 7 stolen bases, Dale Entrican, 4 stolen bases, and Sebastian Granados, 4 stolen bases. So the Cougars are running.
And
I think Entrican, right? Dale's his dad. So many. Then some Entricans come through the way. Sorry about that.
and Entrican, per per Mike, he was telling me that he believes in all his experience as a coach and playing in the minor leagues. Mike actually has high regard for Entrican and thinks he's going to be one of the leaders of that team, and I'm sure you can agree. And then Granados is he's kind of off to a slow start pitching wise. I believe he's already 0-2. Maybe is he 0-2 or
Yeah, I
0-3?
think he's 0-2, but he has a 2.41 ERA and a
ERA.
1.05 WHIP.
So
And
I mean,
26 strikeouts so far
but when
in
you don't have
17
an
innings.
offense, and everything's put on your shoulders, it's kind of tough to get some wins in the win column, and you can get 100 strikeouts, but for for the ERA, um, I mean, you just got to look at the hitting. They got to learn. They got to learn how to hit, and they got to do it quickly because it'll be league before we know it. And
Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to cheer things up a little bit. Let's start to hit on some of those red hot teams once again. And you pointed proudly to your Christian Patriots shirt, Dave. The Patriots, they've matched the Sultans with 5 straight wins. They defeated Morse 6-1. Carson Stroman uh, in that one had the 3 RBI performance. Garrett Nassif, complete game in that one. They also crushed Olympian 16-7. Yaya Owens had a home run and 3 RBIs, and then they defeated Southwest of San Diego. I believe that was yesterday. Braden Ross, another contributor, 2 RBIs in that one. And how about freshman Vaughn Major? The Sergeant Major with a complete game. Good-looking young pitcher. Christian's red hot.
I got to tell you too, as I mentioned before, a former teammate and friend of my son's, Hunter Call. Um, you're mentioning a military reference as Mark Call. He did some coaching, youth coaching. As a matter of fact, he and I was the assistant. He was the head coach for the first T-ball team for Hunter Call and my son playing for Cajon de Oro. And they were using the college teams, and they played for the Mud Hens. That was the first team that we wear, and they wore those Mud Hens jerseys very proudly. They both can remember them. Some really good days, uh, and and to think that they were using those college teams like that, I thought it was kind of neat. But Hunter's been playing, I think, probably since he was 4 years old. Uh, he had a couple of hits himself. He mentioned a couple of big things about how great it is to play at Christian, and that he hangs out with Yaya Owens and a lot of the older uh, veteran players, and not only on the field but off of the field, and that they've taught him a lot, not only about life on the field, life off the field, and really taking them under his wing. He said it's really a different culture that he hasn't really been used to, and he couldn't have picked a better school according to himself, and team wise, and loves Coach Mitchell. He said, being a freshman on a team that's red hot right now, he said, I get to play 3 more years after this on such a great team, and a great team they are. They have the pitching this year. They were having a struggle hitting last year, most of the year. But as Coach Mitchell said, they were young. Um, it was teachable moments, and sometimes they would follow through, sometimes they wouldn't. And now they realize that Mike's been doing this for quite a long time, and they're all buying in. And some of the youngsters that came up are buying in as well. Um, they're just playing phenomenally. The other kid is, as I mentioned to you, special kid Clay Westbrook, the
Yeah,
brother of,
Weister.
yeah, of the brother of that went to Baylor.
Chase.
Yes, sir.
Did we have him on our show?
We did not.
Okay.
We should, and that was and that was in my head. And we will, if Christian continues to play like this, we'll have probably the whole squad. And as I mentioned to you, very interesting fact: 23 football players are on the roster for the Christian Patriots baseball team. So go figure
Is
that
the
one out.
dugout that big? Do they really have that many players on their baseball team?
Yes, sir.
Wow, that is amazing. Where does everybody sit?
There's a lot of them standing around, batting there, encouraging. They're one of those teams, just like I mentioned earlier about Santana. There's always encouraging everybody out there, and just it's a great team. As a matter of fact, uh, I'm hoping for it. And hey, you're more than welcome yourself too. We haven't got the date yet, but Mike Mitchell and his wife might be joining Wanda and myself for me, the old man, turning 46 and having going to Golden Corral, have some grub with a couple of great people. They really are. And I couldn't think of besides yourself. I couldn't think of some better people to hang out with after a good ball game. So.
Yeah, Dave, I'll mention Chase's stats here for Baylor right now. Of course, he made the All
Yes.
Big 12 freshman team last year, but this year, a little bit sluggish. He got off to a good start and then tailed off a little bit. But just this past Sunday, he had his best game of the season. He went 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and a run scored as the Bears defeated Cal Poly. He really dominated Cal Poly over the weekend in the 3 games against Cal Poly. Chase had 7 hits in that series, raised his average from 150 to 241. So Chase is starting to heat up.
Well, I mean, does it really surprise us, that Christian is putting out some good product, whether it be basketball, baseball, softball, and which we will be getting to softball. A little unfortunate on that side over there, but um, unless you wanted to continue with the Valley, or if you wanted to finish.
Well, I've got another hot team, and I just want to get your reaction.
Go ahead.
I've got a third East County team riding a 5-game winning streak, and I'm talking about the West Hills Wolfpack, Dave. West Hills defeated Montgomery 2-0 behind Kyle Dobbins, a complete game, 7 strikeouts. Kai Dennis had an RBI in that one, the 5th straight win for the Wolfpack. They're going to take on Kearney and Mission Bay hopefully this week. How about West Hills?
I want to tell you something real interesting about them too. There was a parent that decided that they were so impressed with this West Hills team that they decided they wanted to take it upon themselves, bought the shirts, had them embroidered, and everybody, even the underclassmen, uh, all got a West Hills Wolfpack, very nice looking polo shirts. And I'll tell you what, you see 90% of those ball players wearing not jerseys, but these really sweet looking embroidered Wolfpack polo shirts, and they're really nice polo shirts donated by. I didn't get the name of the parent. Coach Q told me about it. I looked for myself since I happened to be working there yesterday, and they are sharp. And it's little things like that. The way that this parent was talking, that it gets these players fired up, and it's a little rewards like that that starts getting you some wins. Sometimes, no offense to anybody, please don't take offense to it, but sometimes the rewards ahead of time, or just something small little token, as opposed to screaming and yelling. Sometimes I think it works a little better. You know. Thus, look at the record. It says it all.
Yeah. And right now, the Wolfpack 5-1 record with that 5-game winning streak. I mentioned the win, over Montgomery, but it was yesterday a win over San Diego. 3-2 was actually their 5th straight win. They've won 5 straight. In that game, Andrew Ridiak took a bases-loaded walk in the bottom of the 5th inning for the go-ahead run in that game. San Diego scored 2 runs in the 1st, but West Hills answered with a run in the 4th and 2 runs in the 5th. Great performance on the mound by Christian Schmid, who went the distance, allowing 4 hits, 1 walk, while striking out 6. So West Hills, certainly worth noting, under new coach Ram Barrera, their 5-game winning streak.
Are they going to be that Santana team, possibly, of the Valley League? Are we? Do I already hear maybe a rivalry brewing up in Santee? That always has anyway. But do I hear something stirring up? Very good possibility.
Maybe, although I know that the teams do not face each other this season. I know that. Pretty sure of that.
But I'm sure there'll still be some little chatter, and it's usually friendly chatter, because most of these kids, they grew up with each other, and I'm sure they'll be glad that both of their teams are doing well at this point in time. Anything else that let's not forget the El Capitan Vaqueros out there in Lakeside. What do we know about how well they're doing? Kind of a streaky up and down type team.
Yeah, Dave, right now, El Capitan, they have a soccer-style record of 3 wins, 3 losses, and 2 ties. They tied Brawley 3-3 in their last outing. Hunter Lampkin, a triple and an RBI. They also lost over the last week to Hilltop 2-1. I believe that was yesterday's game. So not bad for the El Capitan Vaqueros so far. They definitely have the talent to put something together in that game yesterday against Hilltop. They led early. They scored a run in the top of the 1st inning. Cole Windsor scored another run. He's been playing well. He's been one of the hot players for El Capitan in the early going. Some pretty decent pitching by Cole yesterday. He did go 5 2/3 innings, although he was saddled with the loss.
And you want to talk about pitching? Why don't we scoot over and move back over to the Spring Valley area and talk about the Monte Vista Monarchs and Andy Canedo and what he's doing, just like he did. He's leaving where he left off last year. We had him on the show last year, and he's doing the same exact thing that he was doing last year. He's mowing them down. And not only is he mowing them down, but he's swinging a mean stick too.
Yeah, the Monarchs are 3-3. They did lose to Mater Dei Catholic in their GMC game yesterday, but before that, they defeated Otay Ranch 4-2. Canedo got the win in that one. Abraham Sanchez went deep in that one, Dave, and so did David Vega. And Vega also got the save in the game against Otay Ranch. So the Monarchs, you've been out to see them, Dave. That seems like a pretty decent start. And how about Abe going deep?
Yeah, and don't forget, and they are earlier in that week they knocked off Montgomery, and they had our good buddy out there, Bubba Cleast, on the mound. Also,
Bubblies.
boy, I tell you what, he's got some mean stuff too, and that he followed up. He had the curtain call after Canedo. They put him on the shelf. Not that he was having a bad game, but you don't want to throw their arms out. And Coach Craig New, being not so new, knows how to run a quality team, and that's something that he mentioned several times, several interviews, and I concur. What he talks about is, he's been building this team for 3 years, and no one's transferred, no one's left, everybody's remained intact. He's got them to buy in, and and in this third year, this might be the year that you never know. Monte Vista might have a shot at the nice little Valley championship themselves.
Yeah, it could be a race in the Valley League this year with Steel Mount Miguel, maybe even. So, just want to mentioning Monte Vista and Sanchez. They're really hitting so far. Jacob Savoy 368, Sanchez
Oh boy.
357, and Canedo 350. So they're hitting and they're pitching so far at Monte Vista. Dave, you took in a game yesterday, the Foothills Christian Knights and those Mount Miguel Matadors. I'm kind of tying those teams together. They're in the same division this year, Division 4, and they're rivals. They're playing on the same field. It was the second meeting of the season between the two teams. Now, Mount Miguel, you might remember, won the first meeting 9-7, but what happened yesterday? Foothills Christian came back and got the win. It was 12-4, but Dave, the score does not indicate the story there. It was 4-4 after 8 innings before Foothills Christian finally crashed through with that awesome offense so far. They scored 8 runs in the 9th inning. This was just a couple of days after they exploded for a school record 31 runs against the Kearney Comets in a 31-1 victory. Max Merlin returned to the lineup from injury. Might have been his first appearance of the season. I don't know if he appeared in the first game or two or not, but he had 4 RBIs, and 3 sophomores combined for a 2-hitter in that one. And then against the Matadors, the game you saw, Cade Cabral had a big hit in that big 8-run outburst. I think he drove home 2 runs with a triple, had 3 RBIs in the game. Of course, he was our guest last week. And how about you mentioned Ringer and the good performance that he had against Mount Miguel, and he also pitched well against Bishops, a complete game 3-hitter earlier in the week in a shutout. But the star of the game yesterday, as mentioned by Matador coach Frank Coit, was Foothills Knights pitcher Taylor Casey. 3 2/3 innings of 1-hit relief. He got the win with 5 strikeouts.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the first meeting was a scrimmage for the between. I wanted to clear that one up between the Matadors and the Knights, and the you look at the numbers, but in reality, I was talking with Coach Coit, and really, Ringer pitched better than the numbers show. He hit a guy early. He walked, I think, 2, and really it was just an inning that threw him off a bit. Other than that, he actually he pitched really well according to Coach Coit, and but the fortunate thing, they've been able to just pull people out. I mean, JoJo's come in a couple of times, and he's taking the catcher gear off and uh, throwing a couple of less pitches, and throwing a couple of strikeouts, and either that or limited to keep him in the infield. I would say the only trouble for the Matadors early. It's not that they can't hit. It's not that they can't pitch. It's some of the routine plays that they're not making, and some of the Granite Hills had this issue last year. Some of those routine fly balls sometimes are not being caught, and again, it's early, but you know, as I mentioned to Coach Frank Coyd, standing right next to him, I said, but let's look at last year, your record also. At this point, even though it was early, you were 0-5 at this point. Let's look at it how you are now. So you're having some things you need to tune up, but you're winning some games. Last year 0-5, I think he'll take it.
Yeah, and Carlos Sanchez hitting 565. He's been a big contributor so far for the Matadors. Eric Kelly hitting 450. Jojo Castillo hitting over 400s. And Jay Harris hitting over 300. Jonathan Frivaldo, 286. So good hitting by the Matadors. And like I said yesterday, our buddy Thomas Ringer, he did strike out 8 in the game against Foothills Christian. But it was against Bishops, a 5-0 shutout. That Ringer was exceptional with that complete game 3-hitter. Good job, Thomas.
I'll tell you, I think, and I think it's again it's almost a tale of the kid from Mountain Empire. Gosh darn it, he's over at Mason now. It's where I don't want to say it's because he's at Mount Miguel, but because of the division that he's in, I think that
you're talking about Trevor Elliott,
right? I think that, and I'm not saying that they're in comparison of that much talent, that similar talent, but I think that Ringer would be able to compete in D3. I think that he would be able to with different surrounding cast. Not that he wants to go anywhere, because I'll tell you what, he loves where he's at. He loves Coach Coit, and he would go into battle with him. He's pretty much said that. But I think that he is one of the players, along with Eric Kelly and also Jay Harris, that could definitely play at a higher level. And you see it on the field.
Yeah, Elliott. So far with Mesa, Dave, Trevor's had control issues. I think his talent and potential is obvious. He's struck out 18 batters in 14 innings, just like we know he can, but 16 walks, and that's where his troubles have lie so far with the Olympians.
And that's where I'm sure a lot of the not ourselves, but a lot of the other press would be like, "We told you so." See, he played out at Mountain Empire, and all these strikeouts he had. Look at who he played, and blah 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 blah. And that's what they're gonna say, things like that. But I still think he's a great pitcher. I think he's a hardworking kid. But again, and they know each other really well. I think that more credit should be given to him, but more credit should be given to Thomas Ringer. I think he has a great arm. He's a great utility guy. I don't think he should be catching as often as he has to, but because of the amount of people that they have on the roster, sometimes he's forced to do so or play some infield, outfield. I mean, he's got to do it all. It's just the nature of the beast of where he's playing. But I think if he focused on pitching, for example, I think he'd be a prime candidate. Any of the JUCOs that he played in local, I think he would be a dominant starting pitcher for sure. And that's just my opinion. But now has come time. it's the end of the show. We didn't have as many wins as we had hoped.
Yeah, but they've won 10 straight games in Santee.
Hey, you know,
Santee teams don't lose.
especially when it comes to baseball season, as I mentioned with our guest, and I'm sure he really liked hearing that, Tyler, about how well, and this is a true statement. Uh, they have had probably their best programs. Basketball, pretty close second, but I think that the best is coming out of the baseball ranks when it comes to the Santee Athletics. Uh, but it's come time, and as uh, Mr. Tony Gwynn Jr. would say on 97.3 The Fan, it's time to pay some bills. And so we uh, we just want to thank our local sponsors. Most of you have been with us for many, many years. Uh, Mata Carrillos. I got it down pat. And you know what? I'll tell you what. He would be so proud. He might even come all the way back from Missouri and thank me for saying it the right way. and go in there and see Pat Villani at any time. I've even gone in there, not just for food, but he likes to just see people coming in there. He loves what he does. He loves his restaurant. He loves his community. He knows a lot about the kids out here. I'll tell you that. He. I'll tell you what. If we could and we could talk him into it, Ramon, I and he would rather do that than Italian food, which I know he wouldn't. I'd love to have him as an intern because he knows his stuff. Uh, at any rate, another good intern. If he ever chose to retire, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. Uh, Nick Losey's down there off of Mission Gorge. It's a shame they don't have two of them still, but you know what? They also have the nice little outfit. You want to go see some goals games? You can go say hi to them while watching some good hockey. So check out Nicolosi's. They do all that good catering, great sandwiches, great pasta dishes. I'm always going to say the pasta dishes for sure are the way to go. Uh, Alpine Manufacturing, the sister company of the Coit brothers and Frank Coit. Those are all those buildings that you see that are saving companies and saving everybody that's involved in it. A lot of money. You see a lot of these malls going up a little faster. Is just putting up those 5 or 8 walls and tying them in and not having to frame everything out, saving a lot of time. Uh, and if you know anything about construction, boy, that's a big money saver right there. And they are local, so it's always good to support your even construction. Support your local construction boys. They're out there in Alpine off of Tavern Road. You ever looking into building something or starting a business, let them know. And then our good friends, our uh, great friends. I'm going to steal it from you, okay? I'm going to steal it from you, Scott, and I'm going to steal it from you, BR. Great friends over at Retro Sports. Uh, Anything we've ever needed, and especially in a hurry. They've done some great embroidery with all of our East County sports when it comes down to needing our adding some people to our staff and getting some of those shirts made really quickly. The polo shirts, the dry fit shirts, because Ramon he likes to have a variety. And next coming up, I'm hoping for all of his help and for pushing him a little bit at the end of the season as we do. Uh, Maybe a nice little hoodie we'll have him put together. That'd put a smile on his face to have a nice ECS hoodie. I'm almost positive he's already thinking about it right now. But You know what? I also want to thank Al Sports Shop. He's done great things for not only me but for other kids. He provides employment to some of the local high school kids out there in the area. Um, I've already talked to him about putting Sebastian to work. As a matter of fact, as soon as he's able to do so, um, he just does a great job giving back to the community. And I think we need to promote a little more on those when he puts together the what do they call those, Ramon, for all the new equipment that's coming out, and he
Oh,
does that.
trade. Yeah, they have like a trade show. They bring out the representatives of the manufacturers, and they have a little show where they display all their new products for the upcoming season.
And they usually, I read, I mean, we some dogs and some burgers and stuff like that. I think we needed, uh, you know what, Rob, our bad on that. And there's no excuse of being too busy. Just kind of just letting everybody know, making sure everybody knows to go out there and check that out, to get some new equipment, grab some good grub, and also the San Diego Kings. Boy, they had a heck of a season. They having a home most of their season over there, and not only that, but giving back to the Elkhorn community, giving back to the Elkhorn Valley Braves, who definitely need it. And let's not forget, especially our direct sponsor, and that is the H12 Sports Academy, and that is Hoppy Hopgood, and his mighty merry men. That He's always got some great people there, and again, his hit tracks, second to none. Can definitely help your youth uh, get better before they get to high school, and really tweak everything, uh, get them to where they need to be before they start playing even some travel ball. And matter of fact, I was talking to Hoppy, and he'll finally have. He was so happy. He'll have those things finally paid off at the end of this year. He'll finally have those hit tracks paid off, and that tells you that he really invested in those things. And I mean, you've seen it. We've brought players in there that we were going to interview, and we've had a couple of players check it out, and they've loved it. And I think it's been a great thing for the community as well. Um, and I wanted to also mention, and I'm going to have to give him a call. That's on my list too. Is thank also Al Sports Shop for his donation of his plaques over the years, and what he's done for East County sports. Big supporter of the Senior All Star Game for for basketball locally in the East County, and we will be going to him again, and he offers to do it, and really great guy. He does so much for the community. I think some of us need to do some do some things for it's a give and take, and Rob is a great guy, and he's always looking for ways to give back to the community. And do not worry, folks. Have no fear. We don't have the date. I am actually going to make sure I talk to Marlon Wells tomorrow once again, and make sure. And I'm going to say that on the air because I need to make sure that we let him get his All Star game taken care of. And once he plays his, then you can come out and see your East County. Boy, there's going to be a lot of East County seniors this year, and a ton of talent. And so far, I got this much. We don't have a date, but it's gonna take place at the Ryan Center, Christian High School. Perfect place to hold a great all-star game at the Ryan Center. Beautiful venue, uh, beautiful people that are going to end up helping us, along with just a couple off the top of my head. Coach Vicky Carrington's going to help us out, getting things taken care of. Ramon Scott, as always. And then we're going to also get some help from Monta Vista head coach Sabrina Jimenez, always good friend of mine, always willing to help, no matter what it may be, and several others. So for Ramon Scott, I'm Dave Dickens, and we really truly appreciate you taking your time out, even on the late nights and the technical issues, staying with us, and we really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Good night.